Hello and welcome, aspirants. I'm Anand. Today we are diving deep into a topic that's absolutely crucial for your GS Paper 2, and that's information asymmetry in our higher education system. You know, this isn't just some abstract theory, it's a real, on-the-ground governance challenge that has massive policy implications for India.
So I want you to just picture this for a moment. You're a student, you've just finished school, and suddenly you're just bombarded with advertisements, shiny brochures, and what feels like a million different college rankings. The big question is, how on earth do you choose the right college? How do you tell the difference between a place offering genuine quality and one that's just really good at marketing? This is the fundamental problem we're going to unpack today. Now, to really get a handle on this dilemma, we first have to understand the main economic concept that's at the heart of it all. So let's break down exactly what information asymmetry means.
Okay, think about choosing a college like any other transaction. The college, which is the seller, knows everything, right? They know the real quality of their faculty, the actual state of their infrastructure, and most importantly, their true placement records. But you, the student, the buyer, you only get to see the information they decide to show you. This imbalance, this gap in information, is exactly what we call information asymmetry.
And this brings us to a really famous theory by the economist George Akerlof. It's called the market for lemons. Now, a lemon in this context is basically a bad product that's disguised as a good one. In the world of education, a lower quality college can create all the right signals. A flashy website, courses with impressive sounding names. They mimic what a top-tier university does. This makes it incredibly hard for students to tell what's real and what's not, and it often leads them to pick a lemon just because it looks good on the outside. And to talk about why this is such a huge issue from a governance perspective, I'm joined by my colleague, Priya.
Thank you, Anand. So as Anand has laid out, this is a really serious problem for individual students. But what I want us to do is scale this up. When you look at the big picture, this becomes a massive governance challenge for India, and that makes it a key topic for your mains.
The ripple effects are just huge. When students end up in the wrong institutions, we see poor graduate outcomes, which feeds into a national employability deficit. Over time, this erodes public trust in our entire education system. And this is a perfect example you can use in your answers. It shows how a micro-level problem directly blocks our macro-level goals, like achieving Sustainable Development Goal number 4 and even our national vision for a Viksit Bharat by 2047. So remember to connect these keywords.
Anand, one might argue that there's more information out there for students today than ever before. Shouldn't that fix the problem?
Priya, that's exactly the paradox, isn't it? We are drowning in information, countless websites, rankings, social media ads. But here's the catch. A lot of this data is self-reported by the colleges themselves. It's basically unverified marketing material. So instead of providing clarity, it often just adds to the confusion, making the problem even worse.
So what has the government done about this challenge? Well, their main policy tool has been to introduce a standardized framework, an attempt to bring some much-needed order to all of this chaos.
And that framework is the National Institutional Ranking Framework, or NIRF, which was launched back in 2016. The whole idea behind it was to create a level playing field. It forces institutions to report their data using the same format, which allows students, for the first time really, to make something of an apples-to-apples comparison.
So NIRF looks at several key areas, things like teaching and learning resources, research output, graduation outcomes, outreach, and perception. But here's the key insight for your analysis. Look at where the focus is. Graduation outcomes gets one of the highest weightages. What does that tell you? It tells you that the government's priority is squarely on employability. And that's a really crucial point for your analysis. Exactly. And that point is the perfect starting place for the critical analysis that you need for your mains answer. You see, while NIRF is definitely a commendable first step, it is not a magic bullet. As a future administrator, your job is to be able to look at policies like this with a critical eye. So let's compare the intent with the reality. The intent was to provide clarity, but in reality, students often read way too much into tiny differences in rank. The goal was to reward quality, but in practice, institutions sometimes just chase the things that are easy to measure, like the number of papers published instead of focusing on real academic depth. And while it does standardize data, the methodology behind the rankings themselves can be a bit of a black box. And what this really gets to is the fundamental challenge of trying to quantify quality.
The things that truly shape a student's growth, like the quality of teaching in the classroom, good mentorship from faculty, and real-world learning opportunities, are incredibly difficult to measure. And because you can't easily put a number on them, they often get overlooked in these rankings. This is a key limitation you must mention in your answer.
So, what's the way forward here? The source suggests a three-step approach, which, by the way, makes for a great conclusion to your answer. First, we need much stronger verification of the data that colleges submit. Second, we need crystal clear definitions. For example, what actually counts as a placement? Does an internship count? And third, we need much more transparency in the ranking methodology itself. These are concrete, practical solutions.
Thanks, Anand. Okay, now for what is arguably the most important part for you as an aspirant. Let's pull all of this together into a clear structure that you can directly use in the exam. Let's say you get this exact question in your paper. Critically analyze the role of ranking frameworks like NIRF. How do you tackle it? Here is your blueprint. It's simple. Start your introduction by defining information asymmetry, but specifically in the context of higher education. For the first part of your body, talk about the positives of NIRF, how it brings standardization and accountability. Then, in the second part, you bring in that critical analysis. Discuss its limitations, like the focus on metrics you can measure over the quality you can't. And finally, wrap it up with a balanced, forward-looking conclusion, using those solutions Anand just mentioned. And, to leave you with some food for thought, something perfect for your interview prep, think about this. As a future administrator, what is one innovative, concrete step you would propose? Something that goes beyond just tweaking NIRF, to really empower students with the information they need to make the right choice. Give that some thought. That's all for today. All the very best.